Well, greetings, one and all. You are receiving a video from me because you are either a ministry leader or a small group leader, some key trusted individual within our ministry here at Faith. We want to roll out an idea to you. I want to do it as efficiently as possible. I already recorded one of these and it was too wordy, so I'm going to try to move ahead, try to save you some time, but I also want you to have a heads up, because we have come up with a campaign idea that we think might help generate some enthusiasm, some life here at Faith, which we think personally from a leadership view is badly needed right now. We've got a lot of good things going for us at this church. The Lord has grounded us and made us stable and faithful throughout the decades. Now we think it's time possibly to shake things up. We want to do that with, as I said, a campaign. The campaign is going to focus on a growth number. We're a little hesitant sometimes about putting numbers on things because it makes it sound like, maybe a word of the Lord came and said you're going to be this or that or something. But really the ultimate thing is just we're people. We measure things with numbers. We're not going to apologize about wanting to measure things with numbers. And so we're going to measure our growth initiative, if you will, with a number. We have about 620 people at Faith, both adults and children, on average. We want to move to 750 people on average. And the reason for that number is because it feels like a stretch, but it doesn't feel ridiculous. It's not as massive as 1,000 people and all these kinds of things. And there's, it's just a number that represents let's get out of stagnation, let's go somewhere. But at the same time, it's not so easy that if we just put a couple of good Sundays together, then we'll hit our goal. We're talking about average because we want to make sure that we aren't given to growth gimmicks and silly things that are just going to spike our attendance up and we can pat ourselves on the back and say we did a good job. Average attendance has a tendency to correlate to discipleship or grounding and growth, which, as you know from our 5Gs, are very, very important to us here at Faith. So here's our campaign. We want the entire church to know that we're moving to 750. We're going to launch this campaign on May 21st, and we're going to need your help. We're going to launch this campaign, and we're going to move to 750 with 3 pillars, 3 initiatives, if you will. We're going to do it with prayer, a higher concentrated focus on prayer. We're going to do it with a concentrated focus on service, and then we're also going to learn to reach, to bring Faith as a church to the community, as opposed to having as best a facility we can, best a service we can, and say, now you bring the people to us. We want to do both. And so we're going to need your help, like I said. And the reason why we're sharing this with you first is because you are the ones that represent so much of the life of our church here at Faith, that we want you to, A, out of courtesy, have the heads up, but B, strategically help us get this done. And so we're going to need you to do a few things for us. We are basing this campaign out of James 2:26. It says, "For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so too is faith without works dead." We do not want to be a dead faith. We do not want to be a dead church or a dead individual that lacks work. And so we want to make sure that everybody understands that that is the individual calling on all believers. And we're going to create as many on-ramps as we can to pray more, to serve more, and to reach more. And so on May 21st, we're rolling this out. But we're going to have to think about a few things before we get to that date. Let me see if I can give you an idea of what we're planning to do here. On May 21st, which is the 3rd Sunday of the month, we are going to, and I'm asking you to keep this under your hat just a little bit, we are going to change the look and the feel of the building. We're going to, because we want to play up on the metaphor of moving out. And one of our people and staff came up with the idea, we had to park a U-Haul truck right out in front of our building that Sunday morning, and we thought, genius, we had to do that. And then it led to, let's put moving boxes throughout the church. Let's wrap certain things in bubble wrap and everything. And let's get this concept going about we are packing up to move out. That Sunday, when I get up to preach, I'm going to play up on the metaphor a little bit more to try to create some discomfort and say, look, folks, that this building no longer is sufficient for our church's needs. For what God's calling us to do, this building's not going to work. And so, yeah, unfortunately, we have to plan a move. And we know that a move is never convenient, never comes at the right time. It's never cheap. It's never comfortable. And so, but that is the challenge that we have in front of us. And so as we play this out, hoping to create some discomfort on the inside, to then make the point that, look, our buildings aren't going anywhere, is the Lord willing. Really what we're talking about is relocating the church, and you are the church. It's time for us to get out. We're moving to 750. We're going to do it because we're going to pray, we're going to serve, and we're going to reach. And as we explain this to the people, we're going to have created specific, clear on-ramps to participate more in prayer, to participate more in service, and to participate more in outreach. And it's on us as the leadership to try to help people be accountable to doing more than they've ever done before. Not just for the sake of being busy and not just for the sake of feeling good about themselves, but to have a faith that is living and moving and isn't dead. And so this is where we need your help. We're going to do our part to change up the building and to do all kinds of things, but we need our ministry leaders prepped and ready to go. We believe that God has said that he who is faithful in the little things will be blessed with much. And so we think that we've got great service teams. We've got tremendous small groups. We think that we're ready to receive what the Lord will send our way. We just got to make sure that we've crossed every T and dotted every I. The first month, as we explain all this on May 21st, we're going to, as we said, roll out those on-ramps to prayer initiatives. So people get involved in various prayer projects. Some of them will be seasonal, some will be throughout the whole year. We'll make all those very clear. But the second phase will come in June, and this is where we need your help. In June, we're going to be emphasizing service, that in order for us to receive all these people, in order for us to ground all the people that the Lord's going to send our way, we need faithers to be busy and ready to work, ready to serve. And so what we need folks to do is to be able to know exactly how to find you, and if they went and found you, know exactly what the next step is. So we're going to ask you to consider, what would I do with any new individual or individuals who came my way and said, I want to help, what do I do? Now, my suspicion is, because we're not real slick at all these kinds of things and heavily programmatic and stuff, is that that's going to take us all some thought. Go, well, how do I really plug that person in, and do I do an orientation and all that? Some of you have got this figured out and other ministries don't. Some of our small groups are at capacity and some of them have empty chairs. So what we need to think about is, okay, Lord, if you sent us the more people, are we going to be ready to plug them in? And that's what I'm hoping that we spend the next month really plotting out. So if you would, start thinking about that for us. The other thing that I'm going to ask you to do is when we get to the reach phase, we're going to start talking about different ways to get the church outside the walls of the building and into the community. Now, what churches typically do in something like this is they start a new ministry. They start some kind of outreach ministry that people can join. And what we find is that most people want to do outreach, but most people don't. Just like most people want to pray, most people don't. Most people want to serve, most people don't. We want to bring these initiatives, these on-ramps, to the people. And so what we think we want to do with outreach is we want to promote an evangelism that is practical and is familiar. I don't want to say comfortable because it's never going to be, but it's familiar. In other words, we don't want everyone to reinvent themselves just to be able to share their faith, because chances are they know people they can share their faith with, or when they're around people they know, they'll be bolder to share their faith. So maybe you might consider this. You're leading a ministry or you're leading a small group. Maybe over the next 12 months you would sign your team up or motivate your team to participate in one outreach project. I don't mean street preaching. I don't mean throwing tracts out of airplanes and all these kinds of things. What I'm talking about is you, with the personality of your team and the people that you know, come up with a plan to how can we serve our community, how can we evangelize the lost or something, and go out in the next 12 months at least one time to do this. Now, I want to paint a scenario. The reason why I'm kind of geeked up on this is because I'm imagining about 30 to 40, maybe even more groups thinking about how they can bring the church of faith out there and be the church out in the community. We have some splashes here and there. We have some big things that go on. We have a lot of individual stuff that's going on, which is amazing. We hear lots of stories of people being believers in their places of work and stuff. But can you imagine like a team of people doing a thing that others will notice? First, what are they going to say? They're going to say something about our Lord Jesus Christ, that he motivates us. And secondly, they're going to say something about our church, that we get out there and do that. So would you consider that? There's a couple of other things that I'm going to ask you to do too. And maybe this is where it starts. But maybe you could memorize James 2:26 and be willing to share that as an answer. because people are going to ask you, what is this whole thing about? What is faith all whipped up about? What's this thing about 750, or what did I hear, or something? And there are going to be various ways that they're going to come to you and ask you to explain it. So if you start with James 2:26 and you know what it says, and talking about, well, we just don't want to be complacent in our faith. The Bible says that if you don't have works, then your faith is dead, and we want to be as alive as possible. Something along those lines. And then you might be able to express that we're just praying more, we're serving more, we're reaching more. Those things will be on the front of your mind, so you know, because you're part of this leadership team. And then we'll get the word out and we'll get people focused. That's how Vision catches fire. That's how it stays sharp for the next 12 months. So we're going to start this essentially May 21st. We're technically starting the count, maybe I guess June 1st of 2017. We're going to stop counting or stop this campaign in June of 2018. I think I just said that right, 17 to 18. So we're inviting you to come on board. I'm going to try to wrap this up so I don't keep you longer. Another thing I need you to do, though, is to respond to the email that I sent out with this link with your t-shirt size. And from what I understand, the company we're ordering t-shirts from is they're going to say it's unisex, but it will be like if you wore a men's shirt, what size t-shirt would you wear? Because we've designed one that has a lot to do with this logo. It's going to look pretty sharp. It's almost going to look like a team jersey in a sense, but it's going to be a regular t-shirt. And we think it's going to help promote it. And we want you to wear those on the 21st so that we're going to have 60 or 75 or nearly 100 of these t-shirts buzzing around the building that morning. And then, of course, we'd love for you to wear it any other Sunday throughout the next year that you're willing to. So would you please get back to me as soon as you can with your t-shirt size, because it's time sensitive. We got to get the order placed. Start memorizing James 2:26. Develop a plan to receive the help. Make sure you know what you'll do right off the bat if someone comes and says, how do I help you on this ministry? And then start to just talk it up. Let your friends know, let your spouses know, let your families know and everything that faith is doing something. We're getting ready to really kind of geek out on this and laugh at ourselves a little bit. If you would, though, just keep the imagery sort of thing under your hat. We don't want the moving truck and all that other kind of goofy stuff to be spoiled, but just let people know something's coming and that Faith is getting ready to launch a growth initiative. And we really appreciate your service. I really appreciate your faithfulness. I personally apologize because I know that I don't give all of you a lot of direct oversight, and yet you just knock it out of the park continuously. And so kudos on you. This is also hopefully the start to something I'd like to do quarterly. I'd like to invite at least our ministry team leaders. I'm not going to commit these small groups to this because Pastor Ben might have a different plan. But our ministry team leaders, I think, would benefit from getting together once a quarter and exchange ideas, express challenges or victories, testimonies, all that kind of stuff, so that you get the perspective of other people in other corners of the church doing what they do that you could glean some information on. So if that excites you or interests you, if you haven't heard from me in a couple weeks about scheduling something like that, then please hit me up. Let me know that that's really interesting to you. But we're going to get that going soon too. So thanks for everything that you do. We've got some new folks on board that I just can't wait to introduce you all to. And this is going to be something really special, I think, and profound in the life of Faith. And we're all on staff ready to lose sleep over it and probably gain 20 pounds because we're stress eating and all that sort of stuff. But we're going to do all that stuff together and see what the Lord does in it. Thanks, guys, for your service. Love you all.